in the fact of teaching that Christ was not God. This false teaching taught to teach the believers in Colossae that Christ was not God in the flesh, that he was just a further emanation of God, but he had no deity, he had no essence of God within him, that he was a mere iteration from God that walked just a few inches above the earth. He didn't create anything, he didn't touch anything. He was just a mere, again, emanation of God. This false teaching, this false philosophy that threatened the church at Colossae also taught that in order for one to have a relationship with God after death, that one had to possess a certain amount of secret wisdom. That at the time of death, your soul had to pass through these levels of emanations or angels or beings, and you, in order to pass each one, you had to have some secret wisdom or some secret knowledge. And if you had the right amount of knowledge, if you had the right amount of wisdom to pass through each level of emanation, eventually you would reach God. This was the worldly secular philosophy that was threatening the church, that caused these believers, that was threatening these believers to take their eyes off of Christ as God's only means of salvation. And friends, we live in a world today where it may not be the same kind of secular philosophy or the same kind of heresy, but we are tempted today, believers are tempted today to take our eyes off of Jesus Christ. We are tempted, we are taught, we are threatened to take our eyes off of Christ and to trust in other things that may help us become wise, word of God. But Paul here calls us back to center. He calls us back to place and keep our eyes and our focus on God's only Son, the one who can order a broken and fallen world. And when I ask the question, who do you turn to bring order into your world? Don't think of that question in some spatial sense as if the world out there, but I want you to think of that question in a personal sense, in your own private world. When things are falling apart, when you recognize you're not all that you should be, when you recognize your fallenness, when you want to call you, just as Paul called these believers back to center in Christ to keep their eyes focused on nobody but Jesus. The question then is,